All right, well, good evening, Mayor. We're here to reintroduce the 1912 Center 5-year renewal agreement with Heart of the Arts and the City of Moscow, and this would be for the management of the 1912 Center. And this is a renewal, and some of the highlights between the existing and the proposed agreements. This expires, the present agreement expires on September 30th. New one starts October 1st. The present, it was a 5-year with a 20-year renewal option. The new one, the new proposal has a 5-year with a 5-year renewal option. Annual management operations is $60,000 now. It's proposed for $60,000 in the future. The annual utilities and janitorial presently has a BMI adjustment clause to that at $35,000. That's never been exercised. The proposed agreement has the $35,000 annual, but no BMI adjustment, so it would remain $35,000 for the remainder of the 5 years. Right now, the city takes care of all the landscaping, and this addresses a question from Councilman Brown. In fiscal year 09, we had about $4,000 spent with the city on landscaping. Fiscal year 10 was about $2,777. We also presently, well, let me back up. With the new agreement, Heart of the Arts would take care of that. The present agreement, we take care of the parking lot snow removal. In fiscal year 09, we spent about $934 and about $1,000 last year. And in the new agreement, Heart of the Arts would take care of that. Right now, we have 5 members on the Use Committee and the Development Committee. And with this new proposal, and I understand there'll be a little bit of discussion on this part, it was proposed to be 7 members. We did a little language cleanup. The appointments to use and development committees would be by the city. That's presently how we do it, but it's just not in the language of the present agreement. Inclusion of the elevator would be in the maintenance and the utilities section, and heat, ventilation, and HVAC would be in the major repair section. Those are the highlights. Just to kind of wrap up my part, I think we've pretty much vetted most of the questions that have come up. It's if you're going to keep the 1912 Center as a city facility, this is a good agreement. They take care of the facility. We've had an excellent relationship. We would likely be spending the same amount of money if we were the ones managing this. The exception here is that they're able to get it developed, and they've done a considerable job at that in the last 5 years. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Jenny Shinneman, the Executive Director of Heart of the Arts. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Or she.
Okay. Sue? I just had a question, is that this is not a renewal, because if it were a renewal, there would be no subsidy whatsoever, because that's what the old contract said.
This is a renewal, and
okay.
And if you need some clarification, let the lawyers handle that. And we did have just some slight a slight glitch in the language. We haven't been calling it a renewal, but it is a renewal. And we have some language that will be different than what was in your packets, and I'll pass this out to you. I think you got this through an email as well. So,
and make sure that Kelly gets a copy for the file too, please. Randy, would you like to clarify that, please?
Let me explain. Part of it is probably a problem I created just because I thought it was easier to use certain terms in drafting the renewal. We had an RFP process that resulted in this award to Heart of the Arts for 5 years plus a 20-year renewal. Also in that original agreement, it says that the parties can modify that agreement however they wish during that time period. So like a franchise, you can change the terms of that and as long as you're not extending those contractual obligations beyond the 25 years, you can make different accommodations. What I did is I just used the word initial term for the 5-year renewal, the first period of the 5-year renewal, and then I used the word renewal term for the second 5 years of a total of 10 years. So it is a renewal. It doesn't require a new RFP. I probably could have taken the document apart and changed a whole lot of things, but instead I just used some terms that may have confused people. So what I did this morning to try to clarify it a little bit is come up with some language that made it clear what was happening and that, in fact, it was a renewal, and used the word renewal throughout. I think you have a copy of that. If you have any questions, I can answer those beyond it. But it's really a matter of semantics and maybe a legal technical issue more than some substantive issue.
I was just reading.
Yeah, I probably just muddied up
agreement.
things because I could have been more clear and I could have used the word renewal throughout, but that's in fact what it is. You're accepting the renewal but reducing it from a 20-year to a potential 10-year and a for certain 5-year period of time beyond the first 5-year term. Right now it's 5 years, and you add 20.
No, I understand
and
that.
just reduced it to 10.
It's just that the language in the old agreement, in the old contract, specifically stated that there would be no subsidy after the first 5 years. So I just thought,
Yes.
does that then cause a legal problem?
No.
Okay.
Because it could have been changed during the first 5-year term pursuant to the contract if both parties agreed, and now it's just being changed at the time of the acceptance of the renewal period. So it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, with this modification, Dwight, are there copies of this for any interested members of the public who are here tonight who wanted to have one of those? We have some. If you raise your hand if you're interested in a copy. Whoa. Okay. All right. Walter?
Madam Mayor, to follow up on
Please.
what was just talked about. Randy, if I may, or Madam Mayor, if I may ask Randy a question.
Please.
And what we were just handed, I presume, is what's now before us as proposed. Correct?
Well,
Is this what we're dealing with?
If you'd like to clarify it, yes, I'd suggest that it might be a good way to do it.
So is it going to take a separate motion to make this a replacement for what we've already been given us last week, or?
If somebody was interested
Now I'm
in
confused.
accepting the contract, you could, as it's drafted, they could also say as amended by the language that's before you in that second handout. I mean, you can do it in one motion.
I'll let someone else on the council that understands do that. My question, Randy, has to do with, do you not have a copy?
No, I don't.
Share.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay. Randy, in two places, I think, and what I just looked at really quickly, there's the comment that to reduce the renewal term from 20 years to 10 years. That's in 1.3. And then again in 2.6, there's the reference to the additional 20 years and the original agreement and the fact that it's been changed to 10 years, 1 5-year initial followed by an optional 5-year. In this, I do not see any reference to what Sue brought up, which is that the original agreement had 5 years at approximately $95,000 per year subsidy, with a 20-year renewal with zero subsidy specifically called for. Does changing from the 20-year with zero subsidy not only need the 20-year change to 10, but the no subsidy change to subsidy? We're changing time, and I don't see where we're changing the money situation in this document.
Well, it's in there.
I know it's in the other.
All the new document does, and I will have to defer to Dwight about what the deal is, right? If I can just inartfully refer to the deal. The deal that you got proposed is in the packet.
Okay.
And the money is whatever it is in the packet, and this doesn't change that language. It only refers to the fact that the time period, that this is a renewal, and that it's a renewal for, instead of the 20-year part, it's for 5 years with an option for another 5 years. It doesn't change any of the language that's before you in the bigger document that you've been talking about for weeks.
Walter?
I'm going to, nobody's going to believe me, but I'm going to try to not get too detailed. Is it inartful, Randy, to call the proposed agreement a 10-year agreement and then parenthetically a 5 and 5? Or would it not be clearer to call it a 5-year agreement with a 5-year option, a renewal option?
You can do that. I was thinking, what I was trying to do was make a minimum of disruption with what is before you in the larger document.
Okay.
Because I chose, this is really my drafting problem. If you want to make it absolutely clear, give me 2 weeks and I will give you a new document. If you want to make a decision tonight, this will work. So the reason I wanted to talk about that was to emphasize that it is a renewal, and that within the renewal period, it is a shorter period that was already allowed and negotiated 5 years ago. And because I used the terms in the document, initial term and renewal term, I wanted to keep that consistent with the clarification that I'm proposing in this tonight. So I thought it was actually better than just saying 5 and a 5-year renewal, because then you've got a renewal of a renewal. I thought it was more confusing. And I may have confused the whole thing anyway, for which I do apologize.
It looks like we're still working
Just to
through that
finish
one.
the same
Please,
topic.
Please, go ahead.
I don't remember what we bet about being able to do this in 2 sentences, but you've lost. And I'll collect later in some fashion. I would personally prefer the 5 and 5 wording as opposed to the 10-year parentheses 5 and 5. Not changing what we're trying to do.
It's easily enough done,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
I don't have that proposed here today.
Dan?
I was just going to say that, and I think we've hashed it out, that this only goes to 2.7 in the actual agreement, which is only about 2 pages in, and then the bulk of the agreement is still that's got the money part of the whole agreement in it, so.
Okay. Now, we're still going to hear from Jenny, too, so if you have something, okay. Tom?
My issue with if we're talking about the language of the agreement, my issue is with just the word, the title of Section 5, referring to it as subsidy, because I feel like the term subsidy is a politically charged term. My preference would be just payment. I don't feel like we're subsidizing Heart of the Arts in this process. I feel like we're hiring them to do a service. And so I just don't prefer to use that term. And I guess it was used in the previous agreement, and we're using it in this agreement. I just think it makes more sense to call it a payment rather than a subsidy.
Tom, does it just appear on the Section 5 just as that one word, or does it appear elsewhere? in the
I could
document?
probably do a global search and look for it in the document, but it's in there's a section called subsidy,
Right.
Page 3 of 30 in the agreement. It comes out probably in more places, but anyway.
Other questions pertaining to Dwight's presentation before we hear from Jenny? Okay.
I'm Jenny Sheneman, the Executive Director of Heart of the Arts, for those at home that don't know me. I just wanted to put some pictures to all of the words to kind of give everybody a perspective on Heart of the Arts, my company, and what we have done in the past 5 years, so that you see that we do have the bigger vision for the facility in mind. Our biggest goal as Heart of the Arts is to connect the community with the 1912 Center, and we use artistic and cultural means to bring the community to the building. And we were selected to start operations with the city in 2006, and we started in May of 2007 with the day-to-day operations of the facility. As of 2008, by the end of the year, we had worked in partnership with the City of Moscow to renovate the West Wing facility, which is sort of the crown jewel in the work that we've done because it added 2 additional rooms to the day-to-day operations of the space, which means if the city was to take back on the daily operations of the facility, there would be 2 additional rooms that they would be renting, maintaining, operating, and I'm still doing this by myself. This added a $315,000 in value to the facility. $114,000 of that was money that the city had procured in grant funds that had just never been expended. The remainder of that additional value was fundraised by Heart of the Arts through private donations. So it's important to keep that in mind for that additional value. This shows some before and after pictures of the west end of the 1912 Center and the north side of the 1912 Center, which faces the parking lot. Before the windows and with the windows. The windows are only on the 2, all the renovations and restoration on these 2 sides has protected it against the weather. We're adding the additional value to the facility, and it looks pretty fantastic from this back corner. This was in the middle of our retaining wall construction, so that's why we have piles of things going on there. But pretty impressive for that back corner. 48 new windows, and it adds $287,000 of value. All of this work was done by Heart of the Arts fundraising, so that $287,000, no grant funds, it's all private donations to the project from the citizens in our town, which is very, very impressive and makes us very proud to be in the position we're in to facilitate this kind of construction. This year, 2011, we partnered again with the city, and Elisa Stone was integral in creating an opportunity for us with the Idaho Department of Commerce to be able to do the renovations on the parking lot. This first phase was pulled out separately because when we went out to bid for the whole project, it came back a lot more expensive than we were expecting. And so this first phase was pulled out as an independent piece, and it added the sidewalk along 2nd Street and the retaining wall. It is pretty lovely to enjoy that instead of this falling down hillside. And Heart of the Arts expended $16,000 on that project to get the plans drawn and trees removed and our part of that project. The rest of the money was from the state funds because we were required to expend that first, I think. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn that we were required to, but we did expend it first because the grant funds had timetables on it, and the remainder of the parking lot project falls to Heart of the Arts to pay for that, and we're in the process of figuring out phasing on that because the project is a larger project. So management fee, just to kind of put this in perspective, Heart of the Arts receives $60,000 a year in the management fee. From this, we pay my salary as well as all of our building staff. And in this past year, $65,000 was spent on the people part of operating the 1912 Center. So that gives you a perspective that that money has been spent facilitating the very staffing of the 1912 Center. And so it wasn't going into the building fund, it was actually taking care of the center. And Heart of the Arts receives the $35,000 a year to pay operation expenses, janitorial, electric, gas, phone, water, sewer, trash. Last year we spent $38,000 on those very same things. So it's important that you understand if the city was to take this back on again, those costs have gone up. And the cost that you pay Heart of the Arts is less than you would be paying if you were doing it independent under your own umbrella. So we're adding value to you. The lease changes that Dwight brought up would add additional city representation to the use committee, which we are very fine with. The use committee sets the rental rates. Also, in the future, we'll be looking for the tenant occupants for the upper floors once we have those renovated to find partnerships that serve our community well. So that's the use committee's task. Heart of the Arts will also be taking on the cost of landscaping and snow removal. We currently are budgeting $12,000 for that. That might be exorbitant. We hope so. That would be great. But who knows how much snow is going to come down and how expensive private snow removal people are. So we have that number built in. And currently this will be the same cost to the city as it has been for the past 5 years for the next 5-year term, even though we're taking on more expense and we're adding more value to this relationship, which we're really proud of. Visions for the future, because it's important to understand that Heart of the Arts does have on its radar a sustainable facility wherein the money coming in is able to support and sustain, create a building endowment that helps pay for renovations and maintenance, as well as any sort of unexpected costs, and that we would be building that into our rental structure and facility plan. But coming up this next 5-year term, if we're looking just at the next 5 years, our goal is to complete the parking lot on the west end of the center, which is absolutely mandatory for any future occupancy for the building. And adds more potential for that. And we need to restore the east and south sides of the facility and replace the windows. I look at this in stages. Until we have that parking lot in place, I can't replace the windows on the east end of the facility where we have existing parking, because we'll have to redirect our parking to the other side of the facility. Then once those windows are completed and the tuck pointing and repairs are done on the exterior, we can move to the south side and replace those windows and deal with the tuck pointing and care for that front side so that the entire exterior is in place. What that does is when we go into the first and second floor for renovations, the windows are already in place, and we're starting from that point. We're not having to add those as a part of those interior construction projects. And then we move into the first and second floors, finding tenant occupants to partner with that. And that is me in a nutshell, and I'm very, very glad to be running this facility on behalf of Heart of the Arts on a day-to-day basis. I find great joy from the connection between the community and the center, and I hope that you see the value that we provide as well.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.